Hello friends, welcome to our channel Academia Unlimited. Today in this video, I will present a book review. The title of the book is The Tale of the Horse, A History of India on Horseback. And this book is written by a young and budding historian, Yashaswini Chandra. This is a very fascinating and interesting book which looks at the history of India or South Asia from a very fascinating perspective, and that is the central role that horses played in the history of humans. So, after a long wait of 5 years, this book is finally out. I would strongly recommend all of you to buy your own copy. This is not just a book of history, it is a treat for all those who love finer things in life like history, literature, art, or horses. There could be no better venue to speak about this book than this beautiful Rajasthan Polo Grounds in Jaipur, located in the heart of Jaipur city, right next to Rambagh Palace, overlooking the Nahargarh Fort. It's a beautiful lush polo field, and right now, as you could see, a polo match is happening where the most famous of international and national polo players are in action. So like I was talking about the book earlier, this book has come out after a long wait of 5 years. Yashaswini Chandra, who happens to be a close friend, has worked very hard and diligently on this book, and this long period of 5 years speaks volumes about the tenacity, the depth and the diligence of this budding historian. Who is Yashaswini Chandra? Friends, Dr. Yashaswini Chandra did her PhD in the history of art from SOAS, School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. Before that, she had graduated from the prestigious LSR, Lady Shri Ram College of University of Delhi. She has been a visiting and guest faculty at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, also in Ashoka University. Besides that, she has worked with Sahapedia, with Rashtrapati Bhavan, and a couple of other organizations like Rupa and Sansthan in Jodhpur. Before writing this wonderful book, she has also co-edited a book called The Right of the Line, The President's Bodyguard. It's another fascinating account of the bodyguards of our head of the state, the Indian head of the state, Rashtrapati ji, or the President. The PBG, or the President's Bodyguard, as you know, make a very impressive entry on Rajpath each year on the 26th January Republic Day celebrations. So that was her first book, and now she's come up with this wonderful book. In this book, the author and historian Yashaswini Chandra takes each and every rider on a very fascinating journey through the pages of history of India or South Asia, literally on horseback. It feels as if she's accompanying you while you and the author both trot through the pages of India's history. In this book, she has given a very holistic perspective of the history of this subcontinent, but at the same time, she has linked it with the historical connections that the South Asian subcontinent had with regions such as Central Asia, Arabia, Southeast Asia, the Trans-Himalayan region, the Tibet and Chinese landscape. So it's a beautiful blend of how Indian history very closely interacted with these regions. Apart from these things, this book is based on an original thought, which at the same moment is backed by meticulous research and an excellent command and usage of primary sources. Being an expert of Rajasthani language and Rajasthani sources myself, I can vouch for the fact that Yashaswini has done immense justice to the Rajasthani sources that she has used. Apart from the Rajasthani sources, she has also made meticulous usage of Persian sources, English reports, English files, and many other foreign travel accounts. Thirdly, if we talk about the USPs of this book, Yashaswini Chandra has succeeded in doing what many writers, authors, or historians fail to do. The great Buddha had always advocated a middle path. So Yashaswini has actually treaded on the middle path. She has struck a very fine balance between total history, art history, gender history, ecological or environmental history, and I would also add to that list the history of mentality, because she has talked that how humans had very painstakingly developed a close calibrated relationship with the horses. The book starts with a very rich prologue in which the author gives a very panoramic view of the role of horses in human history. She talks about the mythical horse called Uchhay Shravas. From there she takes on to Maharaja Savai Jai Singh's Ashwamedh Yagya, which was done by him in Amer. She also talks about some very rich zooarchaeological evidences which connect that how horses were placed in India's history, and throws ample amount of light on the mural paintings in medieval Rajputana and in medieval Mughal India, which show how horse was very prominent status symbol in our culture and society. Friends, apart from this, in this book you will read a lot about the different sarais which were opened by horse dealers across the landscape of South Asia, also by many Mughal empresses. You will get to know about a horse sarai built by Noor Jahan, the wife of Emperor Jahangir. In addition to that, in this whole book you will read about many foreign travelers who came to India and shed enough light on how horses were bred, how they were fed in India. These travelers or these travel accounts include Athenaeus Nikitin, Abdullah Wasaf, Marco Polo, Nicholas Withington, Moorcroft, etc., etc. So the list goes on and on. And while talking about the seaborne horse trade, the historian throws ample light on many lesser known ports of the Indian coastal line. For example, Bhatkal, Dabhol, Chaul, etc. And she very elaborately she describes how the seaborne trade brought in a lot of imported horses into India. You also find in this book many personal references to horse names, of course, like Chetak and the famous horses like Lely or Leland. Lely was the horse of Ranjit Singh Ji. Leland was the horse of a very revered figure in Rajasthan, Tejaji Maharaj. And apart from these, you also find names of the lesser known horses who were called with names such as Jugal Dan, Karni Baksh, Lakh Pasav, Karni Pasav, etc. Then you also have in this book a lot of information on horse breeds, which were the prominent imported horse breeds which were brought into India, like the Arabi, the Arbi, the Turki, the Tazi, etc. And indigenous horse breeds like the Bhimthadi, Kathiawadi, the Manipuri, and our very favorite and our loved Marwari horse breeds. Then in this book you also have enough of information, painting, sources, this, that, on Mughal connections with their horses. How the Mughal emperors were fond of their horses, how the Mughal courtly culture saw a lot of exchange and gifting of expensive imported horses, just like today the sheikhs of UAE gift and exchange expensive cars. So you all find that in this book, Akbar's contribution to polo and etc. So that all is there in this book. Friends, till now I have spoken in detail about the highlights of this book as a general writer or a general author, but now I will pinpointedly talk about 4 very characteristic qualities which make this book absolutely outstanding and which make me strongly recommend this book to you. Firstly, Yashaswini Chandra has thrown ample light on Rajasthan, our beautiful province, our beautiful state, and its connections with the horses. How Rajputs in pre-Mughal times and post-Mughal times were negotiating with the whole horse culture. And it is simply indescribable. I don't know how to put it in words, but she starts with this section on a great note. Previously in the book, she talks very romantically and very like with the panache of a cinematographer. She talks about how the Bhopa and the Bhopi are narrating the Fad story of Pabuji in a remote village in the desert. So it's beautiful. She talks about Dhola Maru's love story. She talks about how there were certain ecological pockets of Rajasthan and in northwestern India where horse breeds were grown, and they were bred into very sturdy horses because nutritional grasses used to grow in these areas. So the author and her whole discourse's dalliance with Rajasthan is awesome. And if you're a Rajasthan lover or if you've been to this part of India, I strongly recommend that you should read this book. While talking about Rajasthan, she throws a lot of light on the pastoral nomadic culture of Rajasthan. She talks about how different communities other than the Rajputs were very closely entwined with horse breeding, horse rearing, horse trade. Some of these communities were the Raikas, the Rabaris, the Jats, the Bhats, and many other communities which were scattered all across Rajasthan. Secondly, friends, the biggest USP of this book is how the author has painstakingly brought forth the fact that women were also great riders throughout the history of India. And this is a great fact which makes us really praise the author and give a lot of credit to her, because she has said that even within the confines of the harem and other sociological confines, women could always manage to ride horses. She has given examples of Chand Bibi, Noor Jahan, other Mughal princesses, and brought forth this point that women also were actively participating in this horse culture. There is one very beautiful Mughal painting which she has displayed in this book, in which some of the Mughal royal household women are shown riding horseback in parda. So that's very fascinating, and in my opinion it's a great takeaway from this book, and what I would call the real deal. It's an absolute pleasure to read between the lines that how were women negotiating in this space. The third biggest takeaway from this book is the fact that the author has again displayed her class as a historian and as an author, where she's talked about subaltern history. She makes a very poignant point that horse riding or the horse culture is not just about emperors, kings, the nobles, the feudals. It's also about the people who reared the horses, who fed them, the saises, the chabuk savars, the different classes of people which were involved in running the stables, in managing affairs, in the horse trade. That's phenomenal, and I think no historian till date has done such a beautiful justice to this class of people who were subalterns, who were the lower classes of the people. They might not be owning the horses, but their love for the horses was as deep and as unfathomable as their masters. So that is a brilliant section of this book. There is an entire chapter in this book titled Soldiers, Slaves, Stable Hands and Bridegrooms. This chapter in particular talks about the different classes of people who were involved in rearing and breeding the horses, be it the chabuk savars or the saises, etc. And it's a very, very ironical part of human history. And the author again gives a very emotional message that though unfortunately our society was divided and differentiated into several classes with the notions of high born and the low born, but when it came to the passion for horse culture, we all were equal. And in fact, the whole depth and the whole sensitivity of the historian is reflected in the last lines of this book. She has concluded the book in a very poignant and in a very beautiful way. I will not read that thing out to you because that will draw the entire suspense out of the book. I'll leave it for the readers to discover it. And friends, then we come to the fourth major USP of this book. Yashaswini Chandra happens to be a great friend. I've known her personally. She is an excellent rider, like I had mentioned in the introduction. She herself owns a beautiful horse named Sue. Right now, as I'm making this video and the polo match is going on, she would be somewhere in the suburbs of Bangalore riding her horse and making merry. So she's an excellent rider. She has chosen this theme because she herself is very closely attached to horses. And friends, this attachment, this bond gets reflected in every single page, in every single analysis of this book, in every little painting that she's talking about. Because of her familiarity with the horse, she handles different technical things very beautifully. Also, she makes very pertinent mention of things like the bridle, the saddle, how the horses were shod, the farriers, etc. So that's a complete delight. Please do read it, and you will get under the skin of this writer and see how one's passion gets translated onto paper. There is one instant where she is mentioning one Mughal painting, and in that painting a rider is about to get onto his horse, he is about to hop onto his horse, and the way Yashaswini has described that painting is absolutely fantastic. You see the finis of an art historian, and at the same time you see the zeal and zest of a rider. To give you an example of this passion that the author, this historian, has for riding, I will just read out a few lines from her book, and this is from the prologue. She says, "I could say that I have adopted the form of an epic, even if in the narrower sense of evoking classical and oral epics, not to mention the epic character of the horse. But it would be far more realistic to describe this book as an ode to the horses." Since we are in this beautiful town of Jaipur at Rajasthan Polo Grounds with a beautiful polo match happening in the background, I will read out a very interesting excerpt from the book which talks about polo. So, I quote, "Although the Rajputs were playing polo before the Mughals came along, it blossomed as the sport of kings during the Mughal period, with Akbar even having gold and silver knobs added to the handles of sticks. Under the dashing emperor, there would be a carnival feel to public matches, with drum rolls and betting being encouraged. It was also considered practice for Mughal-style cavalry warfare, as recorded by Abul Fazl. Since the game, which gives great strength in battle, is good training for warriors who are the elite of the military, the imperial mind of Akbar often manifested his worship in the guise of enjoyment of this sport." So it means that Akbar was really fond of polo. Then I continue. "Modern polo requires players to gallop their horses using mainly their seat and legs, learning to handle the reins with one hand and use the other to wield a heavy stick in place of a weapon, and to jostle opposing players, as you can see. It might be a bit of a stretch to compare it to historical forms of polo, since the format of the modern game is different, as are the horses, and moves such as the combative ride-off are recent developments. But the basic style of riding could well have been the same. There are, after all, only those many movements that a horse is capable of. And so the training would have involved the ability to be flexible in the saddle, raise oneself in the stirrups with shorter leathers to help with balance, twist the horse around and make quick turns, check the horse and execute sudden stops. Often dismissed as a posh sport interesting only to idle high society hangers-on, Abul Fazl's words may resonate to date with enthusiasts. Superficial observers look upon this game as a mere amusement and consider it mere play. But men of more exalted views see it as a means of learning promptitude and decision. It tests the value of a man and strengthens bonds of friendship. Strong men learn in playing the game the art of riding, and the animals learn to perform feats of agility and to obey the reins. His Majesty Akbar was of course a terrific player, gushed Abul Fazl, unmatched as a hitter of the ball, able to strike it while it was still up in the air, to the amazement of spectators." So this is just one small bit that I've read to you. The whole book is full of such beautiful passages and analysis of a historian. So friends, I hope you would have loved this horsey video. Khamagani to everybody in Rajasthan. मैं अभिमन्यु सिंह ओइज अर्ज कर रहा हूँ कि आप प्लीज़ आप बुक पढ़ जो अपने मारवाड़ रे मायने मारवाड़ी घोड़ा मायने जिन्होंने इंटरेस्ट है वह जानता वेला कि रेवाड़ करें एक चाल विया करे. सो यशस्विनी हैज़ मैंशनड अबाउट दैट चाल ऑल्सो. रेवाड़ रे बारे में भी लिखियो है, तो प्लीज़ आप पढ़वाई जो. And to all the other audiences, thank you very much for staying tuned in. I hope you must have liked this video. Please do like it, share it, read the book, and also subscribe to our channel Academia Unlimited. Thank you.